Thank you very much, Jess. The action continuing here at Sydney Motorsport Park. It's the Red Rooster Sydney Super Sprint. I've got Warren Luff alongside me. Last race of the weekend for Cam's Jayco Formula 4. It's their penultimate round, so just 4 races to go in their championship. Just quickly, Scott McLaughlin, how good is he in qualifying trim?
Look, those guys have definitely got that car sorted come qualifying trim, but also look, race speed, they've got the whole package this year. And look, the speed that he's able to get out of that car in qualifying is amazing, and it's a testament to not only Scott, but to all the guys on the team there.
I suppose if he's hoping to keep that qualifying streak alive, he now needs to rely on Alex Premer, because he's got to do half of the next qualifying session, really.
Well, look, Alex did a great job in the Enduros last year, so there's no reason why he won't do a great job this year. And look, the most important thing from a co-driver, you need to have confidence in the car and the team, and they are the form team at the moment, so there's no doubt that Alex will do a great job.
Shields on the front row alongside Nick Rowe for this one. It's winner takes all in terms of the round win. Tyler Everingham row 2 alongside Liam Lawson, Sage Murdoch and Simon Fallon. On that third row, Harley Haber Roll. Sewell will start behind him. Ryan Sewell has been very fast and very aggressive this weekend. It's Morse and Mazzaroli out the back. A lot of work to fix these cars up after the chaos of the earlier race. Surprisingly, no penalties, at least showing up yet. There might be a little bit more going on. I think the real theme was they sat them all down in the corner and gave them a proper dressing down for the behaviour, if you call it that, in that earlier race.
Look, the big incident we saw at the start of race 2 there was just people not giving each other enough racing room. And whilst there was cars going everywhere, there was no one driver you could really sort of pin the blame on. But it was just a case of that everyone's got to, look, it's the old adage, to finish first you've got to finish. And in both of the races so far, we've seen incidents in turn 1. So they've just got to do a better job of control the emotion off the start. You've got to get through those first couple of corners. We've seen enough drama and incident now. These guys just need to sort of put their heads down. We've seen them put together some great racing later on in the races, but you've got to get through that first corner.
So the championship picture at the moment, Nick Rowe leading the way. He's got a 45-point buffer over this man, Cameron Shields. Liam Lawson starting to lose touch with the front 2. Shields would love to close that points gap up slightly before the final round. 3 races to go after this one. Streets of Surfers Paradise. So Nick Rowe pulls it up into P2.
The interesting thing's going to be is the drag race off the start line here. So far, we haven't seen the best of starts from the pole position guy because it is the dirty side of the track. You can see that the right-hand side, it's the preferred racing line coming down into turn 1. So will we see that play out again?
Fireworks in race 2. They were all talked to by the officials to say, take it easy in this third race. Nick Rowe with an aggressive angle of his car to try and get him over in front of Shields, and Shields smokes the tyres and falls back through the pack. Close quarters action once again. Can we get through the first corner? Much cleaner start. Great start, Nick Rowe. He leads the way down to the second corner. Taking the high line, Liam Lawson. We've seen some aggressive moves around the outside this weekend, particularly in this corner. That's very tight between himself and Tyler Everingham. So Shields drops back to 4th.
He's got all the work to do again. But look, the interesting thing that's going to play out in this race is he's actually got fresher tyres than everyone. Because of the incident that he had in qualifying, where he had a bit of a spin, he's got tyres that are 5 or 6 laps fresher than those guys around him. But he's certainly not making life easy for himself there. He's really got it all to do now from coming back from P4.
Defensive driving, Sage Murdoch. Still tries the over-under. And I think he may have made it stick. That was beautiful. Zach Best will he try and spring one on his teammate here? Not quite there. Zagami Autosport, Ryan Sewell makes that move stick. Fallon looking around his teammate at turn 8. So the 73 might have a slight, pardon me, tyre advantage by doing less laps in qualifying, but he was also going sideways at about 150 k's an hour in race 1 as well. So did that hurt the tyres? What condition are they in? 5 laps around this place, though, was a big difference.
Look, it's a huge difference, but he's also now sort of already 1.7 seconds behind Nick Rowe, the race leader. So he's got his work cut out to try and sort of fight his way through. And you can guarantee that Tyler Everingham and Lawson are not going to make that job easy for him. He really needs to sort of get his head down, start stringing together. Look, he's got time on his side. There's still 13 laps remaining. There's plenty of time. And as we know, tyre degradation is high, and it is something that we'll see come into play later on in this race.
Oh, lock up. Sewell runs it wide. Murdoch gets his man back. Oh, there was contact right at the exit there. And around goes Murdoch. This could be big. Dangerous spot to sit. He gets off the racetrack. And there was contact, I think, between himself and Ryan Sewell. Those two have been at it on a few occasions this weekend.
And we've seen these guys have a few sort of comings together through that sort of part of the course already over the course of the weekend. And again, it comes back to that, giving each other that little bit of racing room. It's possible to go sort of too wide through turn 2. I reckon we're going to see a safety car here because that car is beached.
Difficult to see if he's got the motor running, and you're right, 100% right. We've called it Luffy. Vodafone safety car deployed. Now he needs to get that car moving if possible before the field comes around to put him a lap down. Stuck on the curb. He was going toe-to-toe with Ryan Sewell. And at the moment, unfortunately, the 15-year-old from Newcastle is sat there and waiting for some assistance. Former Formula V racer. Let's see if we can depict this one. We'll take it right back to the start. Shields lighting up the tyres, dropping back from the pole. Great start, Tyler Everingham.
And that's what we spoke about. Again, that dirty side of the track and Cameron Shields just not being able to sort of get the grip. It's almost like he had too much sort of too aggressive on the clutch release, way too much wheel spin. Everyone around him has just jumped him and he's fallen back to P4.
Liam Lawson just rolling ever so slightly at the start. Be very hard done by if he got pinged for that. Well, Tyler Everingham found the wrong side of the rule book that way in Ipswich. Love these outside moves at turn 2.
Look, it's an aggressive passing manoeuvre, but it's one that you can make work, because if you can hang the outside at turn 2, you've got turn 3, you've got turn 4, 2 right-hand corners where you can then sort of make the move count. So, look, it's an aggressive move, but it's one, as we saw here, works to perfection.
Okay, so watch out for the white and red cars. Difficult to say, that one.
Yeah, look, again, it's just not giving each other enough racing room. They've got through turn 2. They've done all the work. He's run a little bit wide here. Again, he's just been squeezed for room. Yeah, look, from my point of view, look, Sage Murdoch, he saw him run wide at turn 2. He's capitalised on the mistake. You've got to give him room then when it comes time to going around turn 3. And that's what these guys were spoken about after race 2. You've got to give each other racing room.
That was one of those self-penalising moments. So he's taken that one out of the hands of the officials, at least. Got the roll hoop hooked up to the toe strap. We'll get him off that curb where he's stranded at the moment, and he has lost the lead lap now. So very difficult to make a comeback from that point of the race. Just needed a shove. 600-kilo car.
Now, this is going to play into the hands of Cameron Shields. Obviously, he'll be disappointed with his start, but he'll relish in the fact that this has brought the field back together, because Nick Rowe, in those opening 2 laps of the race, had already stretched out nearly an 0.8 of a second lead over the field. So for him, this is really going to sort of play into his hands.
Cameron Shields, the only driver then not warming up his tyres. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting tactic, whether he's just trying to use a little bit of acceleration and braking. He'll know that they're still going to be at least another lap away from getting a restart. So, look, as the guys come around, they'll see this car being dragged off the circuit very shortly. They'll all start to get a lot more aggressive.
Oh.
But again, we know, speaking of being aggressive, but again, we all know that once the safety car lights go out, that you've got to stop weaving. You can't do any more sort of brake warming. So they'll see, as they come around turn 2, they'll see this car being lowered down finally. I think no one will be more relieved than Sage Murdoch. But
that must be a weird
you can
feeling.
see now, everyone's starting to get a lot more aggressive. The teams will probably be on the radio advising them that it's probably only going to be one more lap under the safety car. So these guys will start being a lot more aggressive in their warming of the tyres. Because again, we didn't have a lot of laps in the lead up to this. So again, the tyres won't actually be at their optimum just yet.
Vodafone safety car pacing the field, and we'll go down to the pits with Rihanna for some more news. I like that side of the story better.
I'm going to run with that one, actually.
Remember that time when we were 13 in the backyard?
You didn't give me my Tonka truck back.
Finally, he's got back at him. All right, looks like we're set for a restart here. Cams, Jayco, Formula 4. Final race of the weekend, and at the moment it's Nick Rowe leading the race and the round. Shields is the man to watch out for. P4 has some work to do. No more weaving until this point. Bring it back around to the start line. Nick Rowe has lots of experience in restarts from his speedway days. Poor Sage Murdoch's just trying to catch the train at the moment. And right at that awkward moment, mid-corner, he picks up the throttle, and that helps him gain a couple car lengths.
And that's a great restart there by Nick Rowe, because he knows that everyone's going to be in that slipstream on the run down turn down the main straight, down through turn 1.
Here comes Shields. He has that overlap. He pulls to the inside. Tyler Everingham not too worried. Knows he's not quite close enough. Or is he? Shields fires it down the inside. Good old-fashioned slide job. And it's on for the lead here as well. Lawson trying the over-under. Shields is there with him. He's back in the game here, Shields.
And that was an important restart there for Cameron Shields. He got the run onto the straight, used the slipstream to perfection, fired it down the inside. That was really aggressive driving. But again, this is what we spoke about. That was great awareness by both drivers to give each other that bit of racing room. You can go through there too wide. We've seen these guys do it, and that was great driving by both of those young guys.
Next up will be his teammate. Third in the championship, Liam Lawson. So he won't be wanting to give it over too easy. These are important points for him. How will he play this one? Doesn't want to let this car get away. The race leader. These two fighting for the round win. Everingham dropping back 2 spots on this restart. It's Harley Haber from the 21, just having a bit of a peek on the outside of Ryan Sewell. Shields with the speed.
And for Nick Rowe, this is a great battle going on in second and third because it's enabling him just to sort of edge away. Already on this restart, he's already up to a 7/10 gap back to the guys there in P2 and 3. The more that these guys can battle with each other, he can just keep stretching out that lead, and just the more he can get away, it's going to make it harder for these guys to catch up. But we know that time is on their side.
Shields is close enough for a crack at turn 1 again on his teammate. Looks pretty close up there. Here they come. Look like they're side by side, actually. For second, the race is on. He's on the outside. That's brave.
This is going to be a big move down the outside, but we've seen it work before. Oh. In a bit deep, locks it up. Can he hold onto it? Just gets it back together there. But now, what he's going to look for is the over and under through 3 and on the run down to turn 4.
Serious aggression. Teammate versus teammate. Late under brakes at turn 4, it's not there. Lawson leaves the door half ajar, and as a result, he slips off the racing line. Now they'll go side by side through 5.
Lawson's got the inside here. How kind is he going to be to his teammate?
Well, Shields is through. Another great battle.
And that all started with going side by side down through turn 1. So it started at 1, it finished at turn 5.
Half a lap of action. Banging wheels, fantastic exchange between Shields and Lawson. He just covers off the line at turn 8. Fallon, meanwhile, has clawed his way up inside the top 5. Going about his business, he's picked off Everingham and Sewell on this lap. Nice driving. And
that exchange going on between Shields and Lawson has managed. Nick Rowe has pulled out now over a 2-second gap. So these guys have lost nearly a 1.5 seconds in that half a lap of exchange. So Cameron Shields needs to get his head down now, and he needs to charge on to try and claw that advantage back that Nick Rowe has got.
This race has about 8 minutes left. How about the slipstreaming for P4? Simon Fallon on the defensive. Will Everingham go the top through turn 1? This is where you need bravery. Just rolls out of it. Cooler heads prevail. But it's not over yet. Fallon won't know where to look in those mirrors. So exciting battle the whole way through the pack. So Liam Lawson, his teammate, will be on the outside. Here he comes.
He's tried to outbrake him on the outside, but in the process of doing that, he's actually outbraked himself. But what it's actually done, it's given him the slingshot to cut back on 2. We can see again, goes to the outside, tries to go for that outside move. He's done it before, but this time not quite. But what it's done, it's given him great drive on the exit of 2. He then goes to switch back through 3, throws the dummy down at 4. His teammate runs wide and then goes the outside of turn 5.
Brilliant. Brilliant racing between the 2 BRM teammates. Now Fallon with a little bit of a slide on entry. Driving last year's championship winning car. Now moved to Zagame Autosport, Ryan Sewell. The Ray White entry. Right in behind Tyler Everingham, young man from Dubbo. Oh, Fallon slips up at 10. He might be vulnerable here.
This is going to hurt his speed onto the straight.
This will be very close between these 3. Fallon desperate to break that toe, but he's got company. Tyler Everingham not letting him get away.
The other thing is if he keeps going defensive down the straight like that, it's okay to sort of go a little bit defensive, but if you come down the straight, the normal racing line is just stay to the right-hand side. If he keeps doing that lap after lap, he'll end up getting the bad sportsmanship flag for deliberately blocking. They don't mind a little bit of defensive driving in the opening, and you can certainly be defensive on the last lap, but you can't lap after lap drive down the straight moving over to the left like that.
The rules of the sport is something that the officials really do try and drill into these young drivers from an early age. It's not just learning racecraft, it's also about learning how the rule book works, how the process of getting penalised works.
It is, and look, for most of these guys, it's their first foray into circuit racing. Most of these guys have come straight from go-karting, so it really is about not only just learning their racecraft, but it's also learning the rules and what you can and can't get away with. And look, as a driver, you're always going to push the limits. You're always going to sort of try and sort of stretch the rule book as much as you can. You usually try and sort of keep doing it until you get the slap on the wrist and you get the bad sportsmanship flag, and then it's like, okay, yep, I'll stop doing that now.
The gap at the front still sitting at about 2 seconds. Shields not quite able to reel him in, although he's on for his personal best lap of the race here. That gap probably too big to reel in the next 5 minutes. Racing in Cam's Jayco Formula 4 has been very entertaining this weekend. Perfect track for these little open wheel cars. Lots of room to fight. There's been so much passing, and Harley Haber with an issue. That's a real shame. Having his best race of the weekend, he'll pull into the pits in the background. And that AGI Sport entry looks to be out of the race. What a shame. On the defensive, down at turn 2, it's tight. And there was contact this time between Fallon and Everingham. And Sewell buys into the argument.
From the driver's perspective, he'll be seeing that going on in front of him, and he'll know that these guys are so busy battling between themselves that they're forgetting about the cars around them. And the hard thing for Tyler Everingham is he's desperately trying to get past the car in front, but he can't forget about the cars behind.
Final spot on the podium is up for grabs in that battle. How close is this? Right at the same piece of turf where we saw plenty of controversy yesterday in the supercars.
It's almost a mirror image, except he just didn't get back on the throttle and drive into him the second time.
If Everingham can get this spot, it'll sign away the podium. Conversely, if Sewell in number 5 can get around Everingham in the 7, that'll give him the final spot on the podium. Sewell is on a hat-trick of podiums in this championship so far.
You just kind of get the feeling that something's about to unravel here. These guys are starting to play for keeps. They're starting to bump each other, and we've seen in the past it doesn't take much to bend a front wing end plate or something like that. So these guys need to be a little bit careful. If Fallon didn't know that Everingham was behind him prior to the start of this lap, he definitely does now.
Working up towards 200 plus kilometres per hour in 6th gear. Through to one of the fastest corners and most committed corners in Australia. And then a great opportunity for overtaking down here at turn 2. Who will have a crack?
Let's see what happens this time.
Fallon just parks it in the middle of the road. Sewell looks indecisive.
Runs a little bit wide. Much cleaner through there this time for all of them. No more contact, which is probably a good thing.
And they all stay line astern at the exit. Can't be many laps left in this one. Lap 10 to 14, but might go slightly time certain due to the safety car. Can't afford to wait. Or wide at the exit is Fallon. Now you can do it twice. The third time is the penalty. One time okay, 2-time bad sportsmanship flag. Third time, 5-second penalty. Haven't heard of anyone getting the bad sportsmanship flag yet in this race.
And in these cars, there's really no advantage to running out there because these cars actually bottom out. It actually costs these guys time, so it's more of a mistake. Say in a V8 supercar and a GT car, you do try and use all the track limits out there because you can actually open the steering up and carry more mid-corner speed. But like what we exactly saw there, it actually hurt his run up to turn 6, so he's probably a little bit too preoccupied with looking in his mirrors to see what's going on behind him. He really needs to focus on putting his head down and start stringing some clean laps together, see if he can stretch out and pull away from these guys, let the guys behind battle with each other. He just needs to try and get away from them.
Nick Rowe still leading in car 97, the lead 1.5 seconds, so Shields is catching him but not quick enough. Lawson still P3, so first, second, third in the championship, but first, second and third on the road. Tyler Everingham will be third on the podium in car 7, unless car 5, Ryan Sewell, the driver behind him, behind him in the Ray White entry can get around him. But it's the Australian Unity, Miguel, number 97 of Nick Rowe, that leads the way still. Although that gap, 1.1 seconds. Shields not going quietly into the night just yet.
He's certainly not in 3/10 quicker at the first sector. But the battle that's raging on here is the one that's going to be the one of interest, because you can see there that that Fallon's car is just starting to slide around. It's starting to use its tyres. Goes incredibly defensive on the run up to turn 6 there. And for Tyler Everingham, he knows that he's just got to bide his time. He's got to make a smart decision here. He gets a bit of a run. He's not going to be able to do it, but can he try and get a run down the inside here? The problem is here, you naturally tend to run out wide. You don't really go back too far across, so it's not an easy spot to get down the inside here. He just doesn't need to make any kind of a mistake, because that's going to then open the door for Sewell to then put a move on him.
Last spot on the podium up for grabs with this battle.
He needs to get a better run onto the front straight and think about a move down at turn 2. That's going to be his spot to be able to do it.
Big middle sector on this lap for Nick Rowe. Gets that gap back out to 1.4 seconds, then sets his fastest final sector. But Shields sets the fastest lap of the race on that lap. Gap is 1.3 seconds. 3 to go unless we go time certain. Well, there you go, final lap now. So, last chance for Cameron Shields. And the battle for that spot on the podium. Let's see what happened here. Everingham right in behind Fallon.
Hits the curb, runs wide, and that is game, set, and match. And that's what I was talking about before. These curbs are so brutal on these cars. Takes too much curb on the inside. The car bottoms out. It fires him straight off to the outside. And you can even see it gets air coming back over that outside curb.
Harley Haber back on track. Good to see after coming through to the pits, but sits back in P12. No points for Harley in this race. Hopefully he can make the last round on the Gold Coast. So last lap, Nick Rowe leading Shields and Lawson. Sounds like that car was out of gas, which is why I had to come into the pits. By the way, Zane Morse, who's in this battle, will be picking up a 5-second post-race penalty. But here's our race leader. Last couple of corners coming up. Nick Rowe will become only the second ever driver in Cam's Jake Australian Formula 4 to win back-to-back rounds. It's only ever been done once before. That was Jordan Lloyd, who won the first 2 rounds back in 2015. And Nick Rowe becomes the first driver to win back-to-back rounds at the same track. Winner here last year, winner here this year. He extends the championship lead heading to the final round on the Gold Coast. Congratulations, Nick Rowe. And the run to the flag has been exciting. The 11 will take a 5-second penalty here, so the 27 of Fallon and the 4 of Murdoch will get back ahead of him. The last spot on the podium will be Tyler Everingham. Fair bit to digest after that one, but great drive, Nick Rowe. Shields lost it really on the start of the race. The big burnout that he did away from pole position cost him.
Yeah, look, he'll be dreading it. He'll replay that start in his head many times over. Look, great fight back. He fell back to 4th, ended up coming through and finishing 2nd. But look, Nick Rowe, he just extended that lead, not only off the start, but on that restart as well. Look, you've got to take your hats off to him. He was definitely the form guy out there.
Congratulations to the young, fast 18-year-old from Karratha in Western Australia. It's Nick Rowe who wins the race and the round. Cameron Shields getting there 1.3 seconds off the pace. And Liam Lawson, another strong weekend, but he'll just miss out on standing on the podium. The 3rd driver up on the podium will be Tyler Everingham.